Welcome to the Fantasy Flyer News Bulletin. It's Derek. It's Taylor.
Bam, bam, bam,
Um,
bam, 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 news. Rehearsed it a bunch of times. Sorry
Breaking
you didn't like
news.
it. I'm sorry you didn't like it.
Taylor's fired. No. um, I should have put in like the CBS, the breaking news thing right there. That would have been absolutely ideal. Like one of those. Anyway, we're gonna cover just a little bit. Well, obviously, there's been a lot of news, a lot of free agent signings, a lot of releases. We're gonna cover all of it right now. We're not gonna cover all of it, but we're gonna like mention them. We're gonna give you some of our most poignant ones. We'll go through all the teams. So, under our news injury notes, Arizona Cardinals signed Kaiser White, good linebacker signing, love it. Falcons signed Jesse Bates to a 4-year, $64 million deal, fourth largest for a safety. Falcons also signed Taylor Heineke to a 2-year, $20 million deal to be some sort of a quarterback at some point. Baltimore has done nothing except release Calais Campbell and give a heartfelt social media post to him. Buffalo Bills signed Connor McGovern to a 3-year, $23 million deal. They re-signed Jordan Poyer, and then earlier today, Friday the 17th, they released Isaiah McKenzie. Carolina Panthers have been one of the busiest teams. They signed Von Bell, the safety. They signed Andy Dalton to probably be a backup. They signed Hayden Hurst to fill their much-needed tight end role. And they signed Miles Sanders to a 4-year, $25 million deal to be their running back for at least the next, I'd say, 2 to 3 years. Chicago, equally as busy, I would say, or very close to. They signed TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, both to multi-year deals. They signed guard Nate Davis for that offensive line that was putrid last year. They signed Robert Tonyan to a 1-year deal and Deontay Foreman to a 1-year, $3 million deal, likely to back up Khalil Herbert. Bengals re-signed Jermaine Pratt to a 3-year, $21 million deal. They also signed offensive tackle Orlando Brown to a 4-year, $64 million deal with $31 million in signing bonuses. They re-signed running back Travion Williams. When they signed Orlando Brown, Jonah Williams has now requested a trade because he doesn't want to spend time. Jonah Williams, the drafted tackle, has 1 year left on his deal. Cleveland the Browns have signed Dalvin Tomlinson, the defensive tackle, to 4 years, $57 million deal. They also signed Juan Thornhill, the safety. They also released Jadeveon Clowney. I think so. Miles Garrett wasn't the one that was unhappy. It was Clowney, right? Yeah,
I
I'm
think
going to go with
so.
that. Yeah. Dallas has re-signed safety Donovan Wilson to a 3-year, $24 million deal. They acquired Stephon Gilmore for a fifth-round pick. They re-signed Leighton Vander Esch, their middle linebacker, 2-year, $11 million deal. And they released Ezekiel Elliott. Broncos re-signed Mike McGlinchey, the right tackle, to a 5-year, $87.5 million deal, $50 million guaranteed. They re-signed linebacker Alex Littleton. They signed defensive end Zach Allen to a 3-year deal, $45 million. They signed Samaje Perine to be some sort of a backup running back, and they signed Jared Stidham to be a 2-year deal. He's the backup to Russell Wilson. Detroit signed Cameron Sutton to a 3-year, $33 million deal. They re-signed linebacker Alex Anzalone, signed Emmanuel Mosley, the cornerback, to 1 year, $6 million. And they also signed David Montgomery from the Bears, a cross-division team, 3 years, $18 million, 11 of it guaranteed. The Texans signed Hassan Ridgeway to a 1 year, $4 million deal. They signed Chase Winovich, the defensive end, Jimmy Ward, the safety, has followed D'Amico Ryans from San Francisco to Houston. I like that. And they also signed Noah Brown, who goes a little further south into Texas from Dallas. Colts released Matt Ryan. Saw that coming. Signed Gardner Minshew and also signed Samson Abukum. They did lose Bobby Okereke. He went to the Giants. We'll talk about that momentarily. Chiefs signed Jawan Taylor to a 4-year, $80 million deal, 60 mil guaranteed. That's a manly contract. And then today they signed Mike Edwards, the safety, formerly of Tampa Bay fame, and Drew Tranquil, 1 year, $5 million deal of Charger fame. Speaking of the Chargers, they signed Eric Kendricks to replace Drew Tranquil, and also have problems with Austin Eckler, who is still looking for a trade. He was granted permission to seek a trade. The Rams signed Nick Scott, the safety, today, and that's all they've done. The Raiders signed Jimmy Garoppolo to that 3 year 72 and a half. No, I said I have 67 and a half, and I feel like that's the wrong number now. 72 and a quarter $1 million deal. And it's 45 guaranteed. We just looked this up and I now realize I have the wrong numbers in here.
Oh, I thought I also saw those numbers you have. Maybe.
Okay. Well, then we're going to leave it and I'm wrong. Okay. Raiders also signed Jacoby Myers to a 3 year, $33 million deal with $20 million guaranteed. Dolphins, they've been busy fish. Signed Mike White to a 2 year, $16 million deal. He will be the returning backup, or replacing backup of Teddy Bridgewater to Tua Tagovailoa. They traded Hunter Long and a third round pick for Jalen Ramsey. They signed David Long, the linebacker from the Titans, 2 year, $11 million deal. They re signed Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, and they also signed Braxton Berrios, who has played with 3 of the 4 AFC East teams now, and no one else. Vikings signed Marcus Davenport, 1 year, $13 million deal. They signed cornerback Byron Murphy to a 2 year, $22 million deal, and they re signed Alexander Madison. Patriots traded Jonnu Smith to the Falcons for a 7th round pick. They also signed Juju Smith-Schuster to a 3 year, $33 million deal. If you remember, Jacoby Myers got the exact same numbers and was, I guess, not offered that by the Patriots. So, yeah, he's not happy. Patriots signed James Robinson to a 2 year, $8 million deal to be their third running back on the depth chart. And they signed Mike Gesicki to a 1 year, $9 million deal, released Jalen Mills to save $5 million in cap in the process. The Giants signed Bobby Okereke, 4 year, $40 million deal, re-signed Sterling Shepard, signed Paris Campbell for a 1 year, $3 million deal. I like that. I said that to you when I texted it to you, Taylor.
Yeah.
And they acquired Darren Waller for pick 100, which in the 3rd round of this year's draft. We'll talk about that one. Jets signed Alan Lazard to a 4 year, $44 million deal and also got a IOU from Aaron Rodgers. That's about it.
Yeah, right.
That's about it. That's in reality. Saints re-signed Jameis Winston, signed Jamal Williams to a 3 year, $12 million deal. Something that came out today that said Jamal Williams was offered and I quote, insulting amount from the Lions. You only took $4 million a year, so I don't know how insulting. You're getting $3 million last year. Like, how insulting could it?
Right.
Yeah. And then of course they signed Derek Carr. Eagles signed Rashad Penny to a 1 year, $1.35 million scrap deal. Eagles re-signed James Bradbury to a whole bunch of money. They released Darius Slay, then re-signed him for a whole bunch of money. And they signed Marcus Mariota to a 1 year, $5 million deal so he can sit on the sideline unless Jalen Hurts gets hurt. Steelers signed cornerback Patrick Peterson and linebacker Cole Holcomb. San Francisco signed nope, that's wrong. Damn Sarnold. Damn Sarnold. That's what he's now going to be doing that. So they signed Damn Sarnold. 49ers also signed, and this is I think another good one. Defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, 4 year, $84 million big boy deal, $40 million guaranteed. That's a chunk of change. Seahawks in division from the 49ers signed Jaron Reed and Devin Bush, defensive tackle, linebacker, respectively. Haven't really done a whole heck of a lot. They re-signed Geno, obviously.
Right.
But other than that, I think they're looking for this draft. We'll cover them, the Magic 8-Ball Show, part 2. Part D. Tampa Bay Bucks re-signed Jamel Dean to a 4 year, $52 million deal with money they found somewhere. Bucks signed Baker Mayfield to a 1 year, $8.5 million deal. Bucks re-signed Levante David to a 1 year, $7 million deal. They signed Chase Edmonds with the no money they have, and then released Leonard Fournette and Cameron Brate. And last but not least, Commanders. Washington Commanders and Daron Payne agreed to a 4 year, $90 million extension, which will put him with the team through 2028. They claimed Cam Dantzler off waivers from Minnesota, and the Commanders signed Jacoby Brissett to a 1 year, $10 million deal, $8 million guaranteed. I think, spoiler alert, I think he starts more than 6 games this year. My prediction. If you don't change Sam Darnold to Damn Sarnold right now. All right, so there was obviously a whole hell of a lot of really important things. So we're going to just pick a few of our favorites. Obviously, we're not going to delve into what that means for the teams and all that. We're not going to go deep into that. There's a lot that has to happen. But some of the most notable ones that me and Taylor, do you want to go first? I see you've kind of highlighted some of these. So
Yeah, sure. I'll just start at the top. Miles Sanders to the Panthers. I like that a lot for them. And the reason I kind of want to talk about it is it kind of it almost makes me think, and this is based on some stuff that I've been listening to, that means they won't go Bryce, that they'll probably go Stroud because
makes sense.
yeah, I mean Stroud is, a more accurate and developed passer. Um, and Miles Sanders is a great um, pass catching running back. So I think we're going to see a bump in that aspect of his game because with Jalen Hurts, they obviously like if it comes down to it, Hurts is probably just going to run it instead of drop it off to Sanders. So I think we'll see
Right.
a bump there for Sanders. I honestly like this a lot for him from a honestly dynasty and redraft perspective. So I think Miles Sanders gets a bump here, and I think this is great for the team. And like I said, I think it kind of hints at where they're going QB wise.
Yeah. This is also one of my notable ones. I mean, his big thing is he has to stop turning the ball over. That's one reason why when the Eagles were like, "Yeah, we're not bringing you back," I was like, "Well, yeah, I saw that coming." What damned him this past year was all the turnovers. He fumbled, I think, 4 times in the postseason. Um,
Yeah,
not to say that that's the reason they lost. They had plenty of opportunity to, in the Super Bowl specifically to win. But getting 4 years, $25 million deal, he's going to go through this rebuild process. It's granted, it's the back half. They have, the upside of their picks this year, and a lot of their holes are filled. They re-signed Shaq Thompson, which I also didn't even mention in this.
mm,
I mean, great running. He's going to be there. You got Chuba Hubbard still. You got two solid running backs. I like Sanders obviously to be. I think it will encroach upon bell cow work for him, 70%, 80%,
yeah.
very easily. I like it.
Am I doing three in a row, or do you want to alternate?
No, go ahead. I mean, half of
Um,
half of yours are. I think only one that you didn't notice one I want to talk about. Everything else we'll just talk about in fuego.
okay. Uh, David Montgomery going to the Lions. So this is very interesting in the fact that
They don't trust.
DeAndre,
Yep,
exactly.
they don't
So
trust DeAndre.
yeah, I mean, I didn't look at size comparison, but like Jamal Williams ended up sort of being the bouldering back, if you will, sort of the punch it into the end zone, the 1-2 down guy, and Swift became sort of the pass catching back, which is honestly where he really excels. But this kind of hints at the fact that they don't trust Swift in terms of his health, which unfortunately has been the case. So I think that this is I don't want to say a huge hit, but a pretty decent hit to Swift. And I don't know. It's more. It's
It's the
kind of like
same. It's the same body type. Swift
mock.
Swift is 5'9", 208. Jamal Williams 6', 224. David Montgomery 5'11", 224.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I think they're going to use Montgomery in a similar fashion, if not more. I think he's a better back than Williams. I think they're going to use him a bit more than they use Williams. So, if anything, I think this is sort of a sidestep for Montgomery. I don't think it's a bump. I don't know that it might be a bit of a downgrade because Swift is obviously very talented and maybe they'll take some hot hand approach some games. So, but I think it just really speaks to how much they are not trusting Swift, unfortunately.
You can't say it any better. There's really nothing else to, you know, there's not really anything else to touch on. Montgomery should be able to have quite the honestly over time could have a boost here, and especially if you get another injury to DeAndre Swift,
Exactly.
which seems to be what they're worried about. Um, Montgomery's 24. He will be 20 or no 25. Will be 26 in June. So he'll be
Yeah, and
26
is Swift just 1 year behind him, or is it the other way around?
1 year behind.
As in
Yeah.
younger?
Yep. Swift is actually Swift just turned 24.
Okay.
So there's 2 years really
Yeah.
by NFL season. But yeah, and it's interesting that they're not trusting in Swift this much, or it seems that way. So, but again, we'll see a little more about how that team develops down the road.
Yeah. Did you have any in this gap before I go to Vegas?
No, No,
Okay,
I mean, you can talk about Austin Eckler, but until something happens, I don't think it really.
exactly. Yeah. So the Raiders, the Jimmy G signing is interesting in the fact that they are pick wise at pick 7. They're still, they could get Levis probably. I think that he's now become the number 4 in terms of the top 4 guys. Um, so that was something I kind of struggled with when we talk about the teams we have left for the Magic Eight. So that's kind of interesting there. But I think it's a great fit, obviously, because he knows Daniel's system. So I think that's great for them. But in terms of like the team, it's more or less a sidestep. Honestly, I feel
Yeah,
like Carr's a better quarterback. It's just a matter of knowing the system and the comfort there. So
Jimmy G, I think, is better field vision than Carr. I think you're going to see less turnovers with Jimmy G. The
yeah,
other thing that Jimmy G has now that he even in San Francisco really didn't have, Debo Samuel is great. He's not Devontae Adams.
right,
Brandon Ayuk is great. Jacoby Myers and Brandon Ayuk, uh, yeah, there's differences, but and then you're looking at your third wide receiver that he now has in Hunter Renfro.
right.
Uh, I'm interested to see how this team finds a tight end now, which
Yeah,
we will talk about momentarily. But both Garoppolo and Myers, this offense is set. Tagging Jacobs. The other thing you obviously have to worry about is re-signing Jacobs next year
mhm,
down the road. But this, I think Jimmy G can have a stellar year because you have Mr. Space, Mr. Double Coverage, Mr. I'll go up and get it, Devontae Adams.
yeah,
And Jimmy G's a placement quarterback. He ain't going to throw it 50 yards, but he'll throw it 30 and probably mailbox it to you. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, if not for only Devontae Adams, this is the best wide receiving core that he's worked with. The other two, um, I think if you put them all together, obviously make it a very good wide receiving core, but I would say like
agreed.
they're more or less the same as what he's been working with. Um, and then so this is kind of similar to the Jacoby Myers stuff, but Juju, like we were talking about, or like you said, it's pretty similar contract. The Pats are saving a little bit of money with Juju, not a heck of a lot, which to me, I don't understand why you didn't go after Jacoby, but okay. So the only thing I don't like here, I think it's a good signing in terms of you didn't get Jacoby, you got Juju. It's more or less a wash, except for the
Right.
fact that Juju does not know the system and it is a complex system. So I think Juju might be able to be a more flashy wide receiver. He's shown that. He is kind of on the down, if you will, just because he's had some injuries. But
Right.
I don't know. If he can pick up the system, I think this is great.
He's going to be, I mean, if Devontae Parker can, he can.
Right.
That'd be my take on it.
Yeah.
And to side note, this isn't a deep ball offense to begin with,
Hmm.
and they've only solidified that by taking not only Juju but Gesicki.
Yeah. And I like the Gasicki, especially like I liked Janu. I think Gasicki might be if I think he's a better talent. They're at least the
Yeah,
very same.
yeah,
So I like that. Um, the Giants, like you said, making some good moves here. Darren Waller, awesome move. Paris Campbell, I think, is an underrated move, especially with the wide
yeah.
receiving core that they had.
We saw Paris Campbell have fantastic games. Sterling Shepard's no stranger to the IR. I think if he goes again, they will not bring him back.
Hmm.
I'm a little surprised they went and did it again. Achilles and an ACL, I think it was in back-to-back years.
Hmm.
Rough go. Um, but if he can recover, he can still be valuable to this team. Waller is, I mean, this is almost like setting up for a Kansas City Chiefs esque. You don't have the pass catching and the wide receiver. You have it at the tight end. You
Yeah.
have a bulldozer in the backfield, the Saquon, but he can also pass catch. And
Hmm.
you have a running quarterback, someone who can probably rush a little better than Patrick Mahomes, if not a bit better than Patrick Mahomes. And then you have a good solid tools on the outside, and you have a solid fourth option. You have Wandale Robinson who's coming back. You now have Sterling Shepard who loves playing for the Giants, obviously, and Paris Campbell, and then Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah.
I like Campbell honestly as this being his opportunity to show out. So
Hmm.
great moves by the Giants. I know I went over the NFC East. I'm still torn as to which team, Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, they all, I mean, the Cowboys probably brought back the most similar pieces and
Hmm.
added. The Giants rebuilt very well. And I say rebuilt very loosely because they didn't really rebuild. They added sufficient toolage. And the Eagles kind of downgraded on defense, but they have a little more stability, I feel, on offense. I don't know if that makes any like just Rashad Penny makes me feel better about that offense in an odd way.
Yeah.
Um I just saw what you put underneath the Jets for Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers wanting everyone and their mother from Green Bay,
Yeah,
Rashid
so I
Lewis
feel
and
like
Randall
that's kind of the
Cobb.
holdout here is like he's trying to get everybody to come over.
Yeah.
Mercedes Lewis, no, they have perfectly fine tight ends that are younger. Randall Cobb, no, they don't need him. Honestly, did they
If
need
you're
Alan
taking Randall
Lazard?
Cobb, if you're taking Randall Cobb, get rid of Corey Davis, which I'm
Yeah,
surprised, by the way, they didn't do when they signed Lazard.
I know. Yeah,
I was like, those two should go hand in hand. You could save 10 million of the money you're now giving. You can save the entire contract you're giving to Alan Lazard. So I don't know.
yeah. It's just, it's weird. It's odd. It's dumb. Rodgers needs to get out of this, like, I have to play with known commodities. Like, no, dude, you're moving to a new team. Accept the fact that
For
you have
one
better
year,
wide
probably.
receiver. Yeah, exactly. For like a year, you have better wide receivers. Just go with it. Um, the Saints, Jamal Williams. I think this is also like, if you think about it, Kamara may not even play next season. He's got this
Illegal, off
illegal,
field.
exactly. He's got the off-field crap. At the very least, I think he'll miss, the beginning of the season. We'll see how it pans out. Jamal Williams could be the starting running back for the Saints, and if that's the case, I'll
Great.
grab him. Like I'm not saying he's as talented as Kamara by any means. He's I don't know,
Good draft
middle of the
stock.
road number two. Like, yeah, I'll take him as my number two running back.
Yeah.
And kind of to that point, we kind of glossed over it because he's not on this list, but Montgomery leaving Chicago leaves Khalil Herbert in a similar situation. So that's
Yeah.
another guy that I would kind of go after for my second. Even if you give value at the your number three, that'd be amazing.
Good flex.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn
Uh,
Sarnold.
yeah. Did you have anybody in between like Rashad Penny? I
I'm
think
gonna
that's a
bring
fine fit.
Javon Hargrave to me. Team needed. I mean, they lost some defensive line help. Javon Hargrave is huge for me for San Francisco. You know what he brings to the table.
Right.
Obviously, San Francisco wanted that. Now you have a middle of the field terror in Fred Warner, and you have Javon Hargrave who can probably put pressure through most offensive lines, so that's good. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
damn Sarnold is also a very good one.
yeah. I mean, to your point, like this team made it to the playoffs with their third string quarterback, who turned out to be amazing for what he was, a rookie, the last pick in the draft. But now they kind of replaced Jimmy G with Sam Darnold, if you will. They got to figure out if Purdy or Trey Lance is going to be their starter, or if Sam Darnold, with the experience he has, sort of wins out at least in the beginning of the season. We'll see how it pans out. But Purdy kind of recovering at the moment, so he may not be able. I mean, it said 3 months recovery, so he's in that window, but we'll see how it
One can
pans
hope.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, the Bucks, Baker Mayfield, he'll fight it out with Trask. Whatever.
that
Chase
team's if
Edmonds
they
can.
win 6 games, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds. The fact that Fournette's gone, I don't know that I
Yeah,
really care. He hasn't really been able to do much, unfortunately.
yeah.
I liked him, but um,
Cameron Brate being released is a huge upside
for K. Dotton,
for K. Dotton.
yeah,
Yeah, especially for a short field offense that this is turning into.
yeah,
This is going to be the year with Baker Mayfield. You don't have Tom Brady. Mike Evans is going to suffer, I think. That's
yeah. Um, and then finally, Jacoby Brissett, because you touched on this, and I guess we could have just talked about it then. But so Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett, they're going to be fighting for that starting job, and Jacoby Brissett has shown, like he did with Cleveland most recently, that he is a perfectly serviceable quarterback in this league. And I don't know, like you said, I think he plays a solid amount, like six-ish games,
and he
depending on
has a
how.
great set of wide receivers there,
Yeah, I
which
think
is
this is
something that Cleveland really didn't have.
right.
At
And
one
that's
and a good tight end.
yeah, and that's not to say that Sam Howell, like he dropped much further than people thought, Sam Howell. So I
Right.
think they have talent there, and hopefully he develops. But if he doesn't develop this year, they have a perfectly fine bridge quarterback.
Yeah. A couple of other ones I just want to touch on very quickly. Seattle signing Devin Bush. We saw what this team did with Ochenny and Wansu. I think I just pronounced his name correctly. But in 1 or 2 years there, he became a menace at linebacker. Devin Bush is only 25 years old. He was the youngest free agent. I'm surprised no one else wanted him. They have him
For
for
real.
1 year. Yeah,
Dude's a beast.
he's a monster and underrated signing right there. If he can turn into something, anything monstrous. Giants signing Bobby Okereke. We know we talked already about the Giants. They needed some midfield help. He is a very good off-ball linebacker. Don't hate it. Eagles re-signing Bradbury and Slay. That's their entire secondary, basically. They'll need a
Mm.
safety. It kind of draws me away from taking a cornerback at number 10 in my mocks. So
Wait, did they
safety,
re-sign Slay or release him?
yes, they re-signed. They released him and re-signed him.
Oh, okay, because we only
Yeah,
have the release
I
him
know.
here.
I saw the re-sign earlier, and it's okay. He got a load of money too. I think 42 million over 3 years. Um, And then the Dolphins, we kind of skimmed over this. The Dolphins have been extremely active. Jalen Ramsey, the acquisition of Jalen Ramsey, you cannot sleep on. To go with Xavier Howard, that is a very dangerous cornerback. They're stockpiling for the Aaron Rodgers inevitable trade to the Jets, the Josh Allen, who is still going to have Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis. They are putting something together that will take away a deep ball. And neither of those teams really were or are running teams. I say were for the Jets mostly because you didn't get to face Brees Hall, and
Mm.
you will, who shouldn't be napped on. He had a very fine 6 weeks until he tore his, or 7 weeks until he tore his ACL. And I think there's options for the Bills. I still like Kareem Hunt going to the Bills, so
Yeah,
I do. It's starting to work that way too. Because there's only like five, maybe maybe Ezekiel Elliott. Huh. Um,
that
any last
division is getting very like things are
stacked?
tightening up. Yeah,
Yeah. Unless you have anything else, I think that's going to do it for just this note. This
that's it.
notes not this 9 episode. That's what I'll title it probably because I hadn't come up with a title. We just said we were going to do this. So, Magic 8 Ball episode coming out Monday or Tuesday, one of those days. Look for it. Turn the subscribe button on, not subscription, whatever. Me and Taylor, Derek Taylor, we're out. We'll see you in a little bit.
Peace out.